Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be covering the best settings for Rocket League. I did a video on this in the past, but I wanted to do an updated version as I've changed a lot of my settings since then, and also I wanted to give a much better explanation of a lot of the settings and why they're important. And overall I'll just be going over my settings and why they are the way they are. And then how you can pick the right settings for you. So we'll start off under gameplay. So pretty much the only thing that matters here is this first one, which is unlimited boost and free play. For the most part, I usually leave this on, but one way or one time you'd want to maybe turn it off is if you wanted to practice like your boost management, or like I've been practicing like a new kickoff, and it kind of helps to have kind of helps to not have full boost, because you can kind of get the timing down of like the flips, and like I said, if you just want to practice boost management in general, like be more aware of how much boost you have, because instead of just getting used to like full boosting the entire time in free play, you can actually like manage your boost, and then when you get into the game you'll actually be more used to it. Anyways, the rest of this is kind of just preference, text chat, voice chat, depends on what you want to hear during your game. Cross-platform, if you want to play with PC, Xbox, and PS4, you can just have this on. If you have this on, you'll probably have shorter queue times, which for me is an obvious choice. Like, I don't really care who I play against. The rest of these are just set to default, and then these are just preference. Now for camera settings, this is probably one of the most important parts, maybe aside from controls. But first off, camera shake. Definitely don't want this on. It just shakes your camera, obviously, and it just makes everything a little bit more difficult. Makes it harder to see everything on your screen. It's just better with it off. I would just leave it off. For field of view, you can see as I adjust it, it pretty much changes how much of the field you can see. Most people are anywhere between 100 and 110. I would say most people end up at 110 because it gives you a greater perspective of the field. You can see more of what's going on. The only reason I know of that people might have it more around like 107 or maybe towards 100 is if they want the ball to be a little bit bigger and you can be a little bit more precise, like with your touches. But other than that, I would just keep it at 110. Gives you the widest view of the field, which is what you want. Then there's distance. For the most part, I would say people go between 260 and 290. I've been sitting at 270 for quite a while. It's pretty straightforward. You can see in the car behind me. It just changes how far you are from your car, and you kind of just want to find a good midpoint, which is around 270. It feels the most comfortable, and you pretty much want it to be far enough to see a good amount of the field, but not too far to the point where the ball is like tiny, and then your touches are really inaccurate. Maybe see if it's maxed out like this. You see how tiny the ball is, like surely like everything's gonna be more inaccurate, but if you're too close, it just feels like here, I'll show you. It feels like it just doesn't feel right. I think your touches will be almost your awareness of the field will be terrible if you have it that low. But like I said, somewhere between 260 and 290 should be pretty good. As I said, you can experiment with it. Whichever feels the most comfortable for you is probably what you should go with. Now for height, it literally just changes the height where your car is based or where your car is in relation to the camera. Most people, I think, have it between 110 and between 90 and 110, which is what I would recommend going with. Any higher, and you kind of, I'll show you. If you have it too high, you kind of start to lose track of the ball. You kind of start to lose track of where you are underneath the ball. Like it's kind of weird. But if you have it too high, and you kind of lose track of like your positioning and like other people's positioning on the field, like I don't know, it's very weird. But this one's kind of the same thing. You want to just find a good midpoint. And 110, 90 to 110 is about in the middle. Once again, experiment with what feels comfortable for you. Angle, for the most part, people go between probably 3 and 5. I think for a while I had mine on 7, around -7, and I recently changed it to 4. It's kind of just preference, but for the most part I would stick with -3, 4, or 5. Now stiffness is probably it's probably one of the more important ones that people don't really realize. It kind of changes where your ball is positioned, like on the screen. So if you have your stiffness all the way up, which actually some people do, your car will stay centralized. And when you speed up and slow down, it stays in the same position. And if you just pay attention to where the car is on the screen, it's always in the middle. And whoops. For a comparison, with it all the way down, you can see how much the car goes to one side of the screen when you turn. And then also when you're driving straight, you can see the camera moves back when you speed up, and then when you slow down, it gets closer to your car. So that's something you want to mess around with. A lot of people like it higher, or not a lot, some people like it higher, just because of the consistency. Like, you're always like in the same spot on the screen. Kind of allows you to be like more consistent with like awareness of the field. But I would just say somewhere between 0.3 and 0.7 probably. I kind of just go for a good midpoint of 0.5 or 0.45, somewhere between one of those. Alright, now swivel speed. Swivel speed is pretty much preference. Some people might like it higher because you can look around the field quicker. Otherwise, if you have it lower, you can kind of get more precise on. Honestly, don't remember what I had mine. Honestly, I don't even know. But if I like it to have it lower because it's a little more smooth. You can be a little more precise with where you're looking and so on. For transition speed is basically how fast when you turn ball cam on and off it locks on. Like, this is max transition speed, and I cannot take this. It like hurts my head. But like this one is preference though too. If you like it that high, go for it. But I usually keep it either all the way down or at 1.1 because it's a lot smoother. Like it doesn't. I don't know. I just like keeping it low, but it's up to you. It's up to you. All right. So and then invert swivel is preference too. I've just had it on for the longest time. I'm just used to it. The only thing it affects is looking up and down. So if it's inverted, when you pull the stick down, you look up, and when you push the stick up, you look down. It's whichever you prefer. Some people are used to it from other games. So, alright, so the next thing is steering and aerial sensitivity. One thing I recently found out is that it's actually a lot different between PC and then Xbox, PS4, and Switch. It's actually like naturally like a higher sensitivity on PC. So a lot of people on PC usually have it like 1.3. That's like the most common probably. But since I found that out, I've actually raised mine up to 2.3. It actually feels kind of clean. And I think if you are on Xbox or PS4 or Switch, you should consider testing it out a little bit higher, because you may have seen a video of someone showing their camera settings, and if they're on PC, they probably recommended like 1.3. But I would try giving like 2.3 to 2.5 a shot, and see if you like it. I mean, you can always keep it low, but I recently changed it, and I'm actually quite enjoying it. Now controller dead zone, I'd recommend keeping it quite low. I usually go between 0.05 and 0.1. It just allows you to be more precise steering your car. As it says, controls how far your stick must move from the center to affect steering and air control. Just having it lower allows for a lot more precise movements, pretty much. That's it. Dodge dead zone. For the most part, people usually have it around 0.7, 0.75. It pretty much it stops you from backflipping as much on like double jump aerials, because it makes your dodge like a little less sensitive, so you're less likely to backflip when it's up a little bit higher. So especially if you're starting out, I would recommend raising that up a little bit, and it should help you out. Controller vibration, definitely disable that. You don't want your hands shaking when you're trying to make precise movements. This stuff is just preference. Now bindings. There's so many different ways to do this that I wouldn't feel right just telling you that this is the best way. There's so many pros that have the weirdest the weirdest bindings that you can possibly think of, but are still insane and way better than me. But what I can do is give you a couple recommendations and what has like guided me to the controls that I have. The main differences for me is that I have power slide and air roll to left bumper. I think it's originally X, but it's good to move it over there because you can do it. You can do it while you're boosting, which is a big plus. Obviously, you can boost and air roll in the air, and then same thing with power sliding on the ground. And then probably the biggest thing is boost on right bumper. It's default set to B. I know people have found a way to press A and B at the same time, which is what you'll need to do. Unless, well, I made a decision early on to change it to right bumper because I wanted to be able to boost and jump at the same time, which makes fast aerials so much easier. So if you're first starting out, you definitely need to find a way that works for you that you can boost and jump at the same time. Whether that be changing it to right bumper like I did, or if it's playing claw or whatever works for you. One thing I will say, changing it to right bumper is definitely something to get used to, because most people aren't used to holding a controller like that. Most people hold it with just your pointer fingers, controlling both the bumper and the trigger. But I actually just use my pointer finger for right bumper, and then I just use my middle finger for the trigger. It just takes some time getting used to holding it like that. Let's see what else. Focus on ball, I've kept on Y. You just want that somewhere close to your A button probably. So you can turn ball cam on and off when you're dribbling. For arrow left and or right, you want to have one of them bound, because they'll definitely come in useful at some point. I'd recommend, you really only need one. I do have both bound. I'd recommend putting it on X, because it's right next to your A button. But the reason you see that I have this one's bound to right stick, it's not actually bound to right stick, and this isn't actually bound to X. I have two buttons on the back of my controller, and I have these two remapped to those. So I actually have arrow left and right on the back of my controller. Which, if you like the sound of that, it's actually, I'm still getting used to it because I just recently got it, but it's actually quite nice, especially for the fast kickoffs that I've been trying to learn. Because you can use that to do a perfect corner flip, and obviously cancel it. But anyways, if that sounds good to you, there's I'm assuming there is one for PS4 too, and obviously for PC. But there's the controller that I have. It's a wired one, and it was only like, I think it was only like $30, but it's wired and it has two buttons on the back. Most pro controllers are like 150, $200, and this one, it's only $30, and it's got two buttons on the back. Just saying, it's pretty nice. All right, back to the bindings. The rest of it is kind of just preference. Like I said, that is what works for me. You can experiment with it and find what works for you. For interface, this is just how big this thing is. I like to keep it a little bit smaller than the default 100%, and then the display scale is actually a little bit more important. It's basically the size of your boost and the other stuff on the bottom of the screen. So if you make it a little bit smaller, your boost won't take up as much of the screen. A slight increase in awareness may make a little bit of a difference, so you can go ahead and lower that if you want. Nameplate scale is just how big names are. I usually keep it somewhere in the middle. You don't need to have it that big. You want this set to default, so you always see people's nameplates, so it's easy to tell where they are in the field. These are kind of preference. The ball cam indicator is on the bottom left of the screen. When you turn it on and off, it tells you. I'm kind of just used to having it there, so I have it on. And then the ball arrow is the little arrow on top of your car. Honestly, I could probably turn the ball cam thing off in the corner because I don't look at that at all. The way I know if I'm in ball cam or not is with the arrow. If the arrow's on, eyeball cam off. If the arrow's not there, then eyeball cam on. So that's why I like having the arrow. For video, if you're looking for the best possible for your gameplay, you're gonna want to have it on performance. Give you the smoothest gameplay, but I have it on quality right now, just for slightly better video quality. Because when I turn it to performance, I kind of find it looks a little blurry almost, but I'd recommend having that on performance. These are pretty straightforward. Vertical sync you definitely need, and then the rest of these I would just turn off for more smoother gameplay, less lag, which is the goal. And then audio, it's preference, depends on your headphones, or yeah, it's pretty much up to you. And then chat, and that about wraps it. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything, and you can always change your mind later, so you might as well. And let me know in the comments if there's any specific video that you'd like to see. One that I have that I'm already planning to do is an updated kickoff tutorial. Honestly, I'm kind of still figuring out the fast kickoff, slowly but surely, but once I have it figured out, I'll definitely do a video on that. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed, and have a great day.